Well, hello again, Sharifa.
Here we are.
Here we are, and now it's time to talk about this sense of life, which is a mysterious sort of sense. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about it so we can better understand it.
Great, great. So, the sense of life. The best that I can understand this, it's extremely subtle, is that the sense of life is the sense of well being in the body. It, it is sort of at its root a sense of life is good, a sense of life is good, and there's a reason to be here for this goodness. And this sense of life is fostered by again by love. Love and goodness, they're so closely connected, and these loving interactions. And I'll say again what I said a little bit earlier, that the way that we can foster the sense of life, like we said, for the sense of touch with the child, is through our own sense that life is good, for our own sense of well-being and goodness in the body. And so again, we come back to self-care. I don't know if Miss Holly has shared with you this heart breathing, a very simple way that we just breathe through the heart and allow this built in sensation of being rocked. We are rocked by life with every breath that we take. And if we can become aware of it, if we can just give ourselves the two breaths, just the two breaths of goodness, that this is the way that we can help our children to develop this sense of life, this sense of life. How is it that how can we take the pulse of our child's sense of life? If our child wakes up well rested, cheerful, bright, if the child has a balanced mood throughout the day, that doesn't mean that, tears don't happen, and that there aren't hard places, but they have resilience. They come through the hard place, and then they move forward. My wonderful mentor of my entire career, Joan Allman, used to say that the children would experience in their play or in their interactions squalls at sea. Something would blow up quickly and there would be tears, and the adult, the teacher, the parent comes and smooths it and makes it right and makes it good, and then all of the weather blows away, and then it's a sunny day again and the child is smiling again. This is a sense of a healthy sense of life. If the sense of life is suffering, the child perhaps wakes up cranky or tired, hasn't gotten that deep sleep. There's a reluctance, a reticence in the child. Kind of the child drags their feet into the day, might cry easily or overreact to small, irritations. Um, and I think that one of the things that I can say from my own experience is that my granddaughter has allergies and eczema and asthma. It's this bodily experience that she has. And when her body is well and healthy, she's that child that I described. She just sails through the day. And when there's some reaction that's going on in the body, she becomes this other child, who is not resilient. It's because the body, I think another way, I'm talking about this kind of for her, this way that she goes in and out of reactivity. But for a child who doesn't have that kind of allergy, it might just be illness. one way, if you see that your child is cranky and overreactive and so forth, you need to say to yourself, how's their body doing? Is their body okay? Do they have a little beginning of a fever? Are they too chilly? Did they sleep well? And to really look at this bodily goodness that the child has. And I think that um, the best practices, the best way that we can support the child's sense of life is um, really, again, as we said earlier, to slowly and quietly introduce this sensory diet that we're wanting to offer to them, to give a little by little. And it's very easy for us to mistake what the child's sensory appetite really is, because we live in a society that is filled with stuff. It's too much. Um, and our own lives are filled with too much. It's too busy, too much stuff, too many things to do, too many Zoom meetings to have. So there, we live with a sense of too muchness, and that makes us cranky. So if we can be extra cautious with our little children and give them just the right amount. And the way we can know what the right amount is: pink cheeks, shiny eyes, smiles, and a sense of goodness. And again, we can look at what is it that, how does this sense of life grow into something larger than just this bodily um, sense of goodness? And in the same way that when the bodily functions are all working harmoniously and things are in balance and there's equilibrium, from that knowledge of what that feels like within the child, and particularly as the child grows into an older child and a young adult, then the child can begin to look into life and see in life this same kind of um, systems, this interconnection of systems, this interconnection of life forces and life ways. Look into the human and the more than human world and see this web of interconnect, that life is one life. Whereas when all of their systems are working toward the goodness of this one life, the older child and the adult can begin to see that when all the systems of the earth are working together, that here we have this goodness of, life itself. So that's a little bit about a very mysterious or a very secret sense.
Thank you. And I know for myself as a parent, it's been quite a journey to know what to say no to, um, so that our lives are simple enough, but we as adults still feel stimulated, nourished, not isolated. And I know for me, one of my sort of um, uh, non, how do I say, I would not negotiate naps. That for me, as an adult, still like sleep is everything. And when my children slept consistently and slept well, I could be assured that the next day would be a good day, or the afternoon would not fall apart because they had had that rest. So and I know that's just a real challenge I hear from parents. So I guess I just want to put a plug in for sleep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's sleep, but it's all of those kind of life rhythms.
Yeah.
It's really, I think that when we look at what kind of rhythms do we set up for our children, that those rhythms, like the rhythm of the body is attuned by the rhythms that we set for our life, just like that. The way that how essential sleep is. Sleep was non-negotiable for me as well. And when the children were too old to sleep, then it was called rest time. And when my children were too old to rest, it was called quiet time. And so just to keep that pause in the day, and that is true also for meal times, to just make sure that that there are regular times of refueling, and when the child, when we ourselves are refueling, that we look and make sure that it's good and it's healthy, and that when we when we pause and refuel, that we do it together, that we are together, because we're nourished not only by the fuel of the food, but we're nourished by the presence of each other. And so we have these times of busyness during the day, and then we have these times of pause, we have these inhalations. And dinner time was another non-negotiable. Clear, even when my boys were teenagers, there were, you know, we had dinners together in the evening. Eventually they got jobs, and so they could weasel out of it that way. But just these kind of essential life rhythms, again, have everything to do with that sense of bodily goodness. And we can say that this sense of bodily goodness, um, that we develop in the young child, um, then that grows into um, just our understanding of what goodness is. We know what goodness feels like. I think that when the child is a young adult and begins to navigate through the world, they recognize what goodness is,
Yeah.
and they recognize in their body what is not good.
Yeah.
They recognize, they're in a situation, and the body can give them signals that this is not going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe we could do a whole nother set of interviews on teenagers, but that is for another time. But thank
That's
you.
another time.
Thank
Yeah.
you for all of that.